Welcome to Global Derivatives 2015, and we're here with Professor Hersh Shefrin, who's a Professor of Finance at Santa Clara University, and he's the author of many books, including Beyond Greed and Fear. I guess the first question I'd like to ask you is, what got you into behavioral finance to begin with?
My training is as a mathematical economist, and I was working in the area of the economics of uncertainty with special applications to financial economics. And I had become a keen reader of prospect theory, cognitive psychology work by Kahneman and Tversky, and it just occurred to me that there were wonderful applications of that whole body of thought to finance, and so that led me into behavioral finance per se.
And in terms of your work on behavioral finance, what human psychological trait do you think is the worst for investing? What mistakes do you think humans make most often, and the most serious mistakes?
I always like to talk about the big four.
Yeah.
So the big four are excessive optimism, looking at the world through unduly rosy-colored glasses.
Yeah.
Overconfidence, the tendency to think that we know more than we do, that leads us to underestimate risk.
Yeah.
Confirmation bias, to discount information that runs contrary to views that we hold. And aversion to a sure loss, so that when we are in a situation where we confront the possibility of having to accept a loss, we are inclined to be especially prone to taking risk.
Yeah.
So I think that those four are particularly dangerous over time.
And do you think traders by and large have embraced behavioral finance, or do you think there's still a long way to go for traders to accept their mistakes?
I think there's still a long way to go. I think that behavioral finance is still relatively new outside of academia, and it's just beginning to take hold in terms of potential.
And from the time you started working on behavioral finance, do you think perceptions have changed over time? For example, in terms of the mainstream, there's books like Thinking Fast and Slow, which I've read, for example, and I know it's become very popular. Do you think perceptions within the community of finance has changed on behavioral finance as well?
Absolutely. When I first started to speak to audience such as at ICBI, I think the behavioral finance was regarded as rather fringe and exotic.
Yeah.
I think that it's been moving into the mainstream, and now there's a serious interest in trying to understand on the part of practitioners what behavioral ideas have to tell them about trading and investing.
And what do you think the future holds for behavioral finance, like new areas of research? I know nobody can tell the future, but where do you think it's heading as a field?
I think that the combination of behavioral psychology and neuroscience, I think, is going to give us our really exciting new research directions in the near future, and I think it's going to be just extremely exciting to see what comes out of that particular joint effort.
Well, thanks very much for speaking to us today, and I'm very much looking forward to your talk.
Thank you so much.